Hello guys, my name is Amit Sani and I welcome you on this daily Hindu analysis video. In the morning these videos come, in the evening MCQ lessons they come. So yesterday's MCQ lesson will also be uploaded soon, and 4th September it is. Important article by Nirja Chandok on the democratic issue and the authoritative ways of today's governments, and one more issue of a bilateral trade problem on India and Pakistan's border economies. So we will discuss those things, and these are the words that I found today. And regarding the PDF, you know about the Facebook group that I tell you daily about that, and there you can get the Telegram channel's link and the PDF both. So first article on the edge is regarding the economic condition and important for GS paper 3, you may say 2 also. They are presenting some numbers, and it says far-reaching reforms may be inevitable to keep the economy from stalling. Stalling means it's all a stagnant phase. If you see these numbers, April to June period, 5% growth that we all are talking about, and additional numbers are giving many evidences that maybe there are a lot of denials regarding that issue, but the problem is really huge, and it is slowest pace in more than 6 years now, where many promises were there, but the slowest growth is there for the GDP, and these are the official numbers. These are not any independent reporting. Private consumption spending, that tells about the demand issue, means the basic needs that people spend on. The private consumption spending is from 7.2%, it is 3.1% right now, means more than half there is a decline. GFCF, the gross fixed capital formation, you see this is the prime icon of investment activity and the proper manufacturing issue in the economy, and the investment is dependent on this GFCF thing. Now meager 4% is the number here with the GFCF, and it was close to 13.3% last year. So there is a huge decline from 13.3 to 4%. It is less than 1/3 of that. So that shows that economic, whatever they are hoping on a private consumption, they say that $5 trillion economy will be based on the private consumption, but here there is a virtual stagnant condition, and that is told by these numbers. Now even the RBI's annual report says that whether there is a moderation or the contraction, there is no increase, there is no growth in the GFCF numbers. And next, if we talk about the construction industry, which is the major employer, okay, so maximum number of employment comes from 2-3 specific industries like the textile industry or the construction industry. Here from 9.6 to 5.7%. That is also a kind of a very low growth in this sector, where it was needed that more than 10% it must be. Manufactured products, we discussed about the GFCF issue. Now the manufactured products, gross value addition, you see this is also a specific way to count the GDP numbers. And gross value addition means at every stage what is the value addition. If we count this way, then 8-quarter low means this says that 3 quarters are there in an year, and 8 quarters means it's a very long period where it is close to now 0.6%. 8 quarters low numbers. It's all a devastating number for the manufacturing industry. Mining, electricity, other utility services, and public administration and defense, all 5 others contribute to overall GVA weakened from a year earlier, means the numbers are surely lesser than the last year's number. And one important issue of consumers confidence survey done by RBI. Periodically RBI does this consumer confidence survey. Here they check that how much they are confident on the spending issue, and the investment issue is also related with that. Now July survey says that the numbers which were 37.3% in 2018, means this much percentage of the people, they thought that we must think before we spend. So the investment is coming after a huge introspection. Here 63.8% numbers right now are of the people who think that we must think before we spend. So the numbers are doubled and discretionary spending, as we call it, discretionary spending is coming from 63% people now. So these all numbers are very troubling and devastating for some specific sectors, and we have not talked about the agriculture sector here. There is a huge crisis looming over there, and that is not discussed with these numbers, because these numbers are coming from top 300-400 corporate companies and all. So that's the problem. The major agrarian crisis is not covered under these numbers. Auto sector, which is a very much, you may say, sunrise sector, flamboyant sector of the economy, that is going through all-time low sales phase, and iconic companies like Maruti and all, they have said a lot about the economic condition. Bajaj company, which made a very sharp comment on the government's working, that the growth will not fall from heavens. So these all things are troublesome. So some huge far-reaching reforms are inevitable here. So here it's a great testing phase for finance minister, and anything can be there in the future. She may come out very efficient from this phase, or this may turn into a huge crisis. So that's why we need to see. Next article talks about a very unique and relevant situation. Nirja Chandok talks about the democratic conditions in the world today. You see, after the World War II and mainly in the Cold War phase, democracy and the democratic system, that became the inevitable ways to run the countries, especially these international lending institutions. They made democratic systems a precondition for all the financing and the help there, financial aid there. So most of the countries which got freedom in the 20th century, they followed this way, and still these things are going on. And till date, democracy has been accepted as the best way there. So now there is an issue of populist governments. You see, in democracy, numbers are important. So populism is a very important factor. But you see, populism only matters positively when people are educated, aware, and they are proper citizens in a meaning. But the problem is, in many developing countries and in many other countries, majority of the population that is mired with poverty, no education, less education, no awareness, and the problem is really huge with some countries like Brazil, India, Pakistan, and many democracies there. So their population means that there is a particular, you may say, it's a kind of a virtual arrangement between the governments which come, which wants existence, which want votes, and the popular opinions. Means when there is less education, less awareness, means the unemployment is there, and the people are following traditional ways. They are not going towards the scientific development more, and progress is not much there. So that's why people's opinion, they are not refined, they are not up to date, and they are not based on scientific evidences most of the times. In these phases, if the governments start satisfying people with their own opinions, and they do not give them progressive ways to develop, and they do not take care much about the health, basic education, skilling, and the progressive environment, scientific environment much, then certainly this country, which is having these kind of problems with the majority, then there will be no scientific ways of development. Mainly in many of the instances, you may feel that progressive ways are adopted, scientific developments are happening, and researches are also going on, but majorly the country remains aloof from these kind of progressive developments, because those governments are populist governments. That's the problem. Suppose a condition of a country called Norway, Denmark. Majority of the people, they are aware, they are educated, proper citizens they are. But if you see the condition of suppose India, majority of the country, they will blindly follow religious ways, maybe they behave in a fanatic way. Education is there, but the quality of education is not there, and you cannot say that universities are great. Many of the universities, they are just having a label of university, but they are not the universities in actual sense. Health facilities, very problematic. Now, what you can say, a difference between the Denmark's condition and India's condition. Obviously the population is a big concern there. You cannot manage a very diverse and populous country very easily as you can manage a very small country with some ease. So there is a huge difference, but still the populist ways, those will be devastating in a country like India, because people will be satisfied more with their traditional ways, and if somebody will upgrade their lives, then only they can give progressive opinions and they can believe on them. So it is actually the responsibility of the progressive governments that they shape those democracies. But instead of shaping those populations and developing positive ways there, cooperative ways there, instead of that, they only just care about their political existence and they only care about votes. Then they will only talk in the language of the majority, which is poor, which is traditionally very backward, and which is marred with many problems. But their belief systems are very much backward. So if the government will also talk in a backward way, then that country will be going on a path where there are very less hopes for the democratic values, constitutional values, and languages of the governments will remain democratic, but the ways will be authoritative, and the ways will be very much populist. You talk about the schemes which are going on in our country, those are populist schemes. They put enormous pressure on the economy, and government's spending is limited because of them, and in practical ways those things are devastating a lot, because the agriculture sector is not growing on its own. So we need to give PM Kisan like Yojanas and all. So these are emergency measures, but always we have these populist emergency measures, and that's why enormous pressure is there. Now Nirja Chandok says that if we take many examples, then democracy still is the best way. It is not the perfect way, it is the best way. But if the democracy is based on only numbers and only populist governments are running those countries, then there are no democracies left. And the main issue with the democracy concerns with the institutional issue, means the institutions must be there, autonomy must be there with the institutions. Like we have parliament, we have judiciary, we have RBI, we have CBI, we have CBC, Lokpal. All these are institutions. If these are not working freely, if these are not autonomous, and if these are suppressed under the executive pressures, then these are not true institutions. True institutions are independent. What has made America a great country, the most powerful country? These are the institutions that they had maintained. Right now the phase is going that is very difficult, but till 21st century you may say, 20th century you may say, their institutions, their civil society groups, they were very robust. Their journalism is also brave in comparison to India. In India, most of the media houses, they are totally committed now. But in America, you see press conferences, live questioning, like the CNN editor asked many questions to Trump. These kind of things are not visible in India anymore. So there are huge troubles, and institutions are not true institutions in India in a practical sense, and that is a huge issue. Always scholars say that institutions are the pillars of the democracy. If these are not robust, if these are not independent, then there is a huge problem. So parliament are not only law-making bodies, they are forums that enable deliberations, encourage mediation, facilitate criticism of government policies, and make possible the hammering out of the compromises and the offering of the alternatives. Means all cooperative ways, debates, discussion, and the progressive proposals must be there. But who will bring them? MPs will bring them. But what happens today? If you talk about the practical condition of India today, then only some leaders, they will dictate some policies, and all MPs, they will follow those blindly. They do not have any individual opinion of their themselves, and they are representing a population, but they will not have any individual opinions. Means according to them, the whole country thinks like the leader, and whatever leader says, that is the best thing. That is seen practically here, and that is devastating according to the democratic principles. Why? Because the issue of whip is there. the issue of anti-defection law is there. Both these things have their own negatives, and the negative is very huge. Means the individual opinion of MPs doesn't matter, the opinion of opposition doesn't matter. The matter that opinion that matters, that is the opinion of the leader, and that's the problem. And that's why institutions are very weak and democratic values are also very weak, because in a way you have the democratic language, but the ways are based on some personalities, and those are authoritative ways. So indirectly these are authoritative ways in the name of democracies. We talk about United States, then Trump rules, and Republican model, Republican controlled Senate that rules, and there is a presidential system, so they can veto any kind of law. President can veto all kinds of laws. So many proposals from the Democratic Party and others, they are blocked. You talk about the judicial appointments, these are Trump nominees, and they are supposed to be biased judges, and they are talking in a very ideological based views. Means those are not independent views, those are based on some ideologies, and extreme ideologies, right wing ideologies, and biased systems are there, and protectionism is there, liberal ways are not there, which were the iconic things of America, but these are not there now. Appointments are for life, okay, and those are Trump nominees, and Trump is very much controversial, we all know about that. So despite many warnings from people like Robert Mueller, where the Mueller report was there regarding the interference in the elections there, means elections, the procedures, they have serious questions. And in a democracy like America, where so much liberty was there, civil society was so strong, judiciary was so strong, all are under pressure. So that's why it's a problematic thing. Means the true democracy is not ruling America. If we see the case of Britain, then recently we saw a very problematic thing, that the newly elected Prime Minister there, Mr. Johnson, he said that Parliament will shut down for 5 weeks. And that was really problematic, because this is the phase when you are discussing the final phase of Brexit, the no deal issue and all. So they needed time, they needed discussion, they needed debates there, intense debates, but they are blocking those debates. They are shutting down the Parliament for 5 weeks now. And economists say that it can lead to an economic chaos if the discussions are not taking place there. It may be a great devastating phase for Britain's economy, and the problems will be larger. So this is again based on the Boris Johnson's move, that shutdown will be there. So it is again an undemocratic way, a more authoritative way you can call it, because there are degrees. Means if you are inclining towards a democracy, then the degree will rise for the democratic way, the degree will rise for the authoritative way if more personalities are having a dominance over the opinions, and they matter. So they speak the language of democracy, but their solutions to be problems of the people are rankly authoritarian. This line sums up all. Okay, next article, putting the skids under border trade. It talks about a unique situation of a border trade between India and Pakistan. You see, after the Pulwama attack, the airspace was totally shut down by Pakistan, and MFN status we withdrew, and after a long period of time we imposed 200% duties, custom duty on Pakistan's goods. And that is also a well-known fact that we export more than we import. We export around $2.06 billion, and we import $4.95 million from Pakistan. So our businessmen, our tradesmen, they are hurting more here. That is the true sense. But you see, it is the nationalistic issue, and it is the issue of some pride there and supporting the country there, that we are not able to say anything here. It's a huge problem. It is devastating. The border economy is there, but still the nationalistic fever is ruling the scene, and it will obviously rule because it is the issue of Pakistan and Kashmir. So by the sides of it, huge problem, economic problems are coming. Pakistan's economy is certainly hurt here, but we will not need to talk about that. We need to talk about India's situation, the Amritsar country, where the maximum economic activity is dependent on the border economic issues. Their own industries and their own autonomous manufacturing and all these things are not happening in the city. monthly 25 to 30 crores economic addition is there from the border economic issue. So that is troubled, and around 75% of that is devastated because of the problems on the border economy. And you see, things are based on demands and supplies. Demands are there, that's why these are supplies. We export cotton mainly, and we import gypsum. Okay, gypsum is needed. That thing we still need. Cotton Pakistan still needs, but these things will be routed now from countries like UAE, Singapore and all. So the price will rise very high with these things, and things which were smooth across the borders and in a very limited area, so the prices could not go up, and the trade was very smooth. Transportation was totally possible. Now all things are blocked, and the issue is rising, the concerns are rising. So the depression for the future is also rising. That's the huge problem. Here the writer said that Wagah-Atari land route, that was very much in fear of Pakistan. So that is also blocked for Pakistan. So Pakistan's economy, Pakistan's people across the border, they are also hurt. And both sides, the border economies are experiencing a sudden problem there. Always you see these border economies, generally they face boom bust cycle. Means if the politics is supporting, if the rules and regulations are supporting, then there will be a boom phase. Today these are not supporting, then it's a bust cycle, and it is all due to political changes there. So these people are bearing the brunt of it. That's the problem. Now, as I told you, traders, staff members, customs house agents and freight forwarders, labor force, truck operators, fuel stations, all the services are hit. Already the unemployment problem is there in India, and here in these regions huge problems are coming. So their economies are devastated with this problem, and